Welcome back on this Tuesday. Keith Tebow from FRCmedia. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. You know, we've had the opportunity over the last 7 weeks to speak with every member of the local legislative delegation in Boston, save for one. Well, that's going to be out the window right now, as we are pleased to be joined this afternoon by the senator representing the city of Fall River and other regions, Senator Michael Rodrigues. Senator Rodrigues, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Keith. I'm great. Good to see you, even if it's virtually. I mean, I miss not doing Voices from the Hill show. So it's good to see you.
It's good to be seen, I guess. So let me ask you. I know right now you actually are in Boston, and you're one of the few legislators that make regular appearances in the Statehouse. Why is that?
Well, as chair of the Senate Committee on Ways and Means, we never rest. Pretty much every bill that has a financial impact has to flow through the Committee on Ways and Means. So we are in session on Mondays and Thursdays still, and I need to be here in order to shepherd the bills through session. Besides that, we still have a fiscal year 21 budget that we have to write. Fiscal year begins July 1, so it's right around the corner. And with this COVID-19 pandemic crisis that has caused the Commonwealth to enter into a fiscal recession, it's a lot of work trying to put this budget together.
So what's it like up at the Statehouse? Is it a ghost town?
Yeah. It's a ghost town. Well, first of all, I can make it door to door in about 58 minutes. We always leave. We assemble with a couple of members of my staff 8 o'clock in the morning in Westport, and it would normally take me 1 hour and 40 to 2 hours to commute in the morning, and about the same on the way home. But now I can make it in about an hour. It's unbelievable. There's nobody on the road. When I get to, even coming through, when I get off the expressway on the Government Center exit and go through Faneuil Hall and around Government Center, and it's a ghost town. There's nobody on the roads. I get to the Statehouse, it's empty. I unlock my office suite door and the place is empty. When we're in session on Mondays and Thursdays, there are generally only about a half a dozen people in the chamber. The sessions are televised, it's live streamed, so you can go on the legislative website and watch us in session. And we've really accomplished a lot. Like I said, twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays, we are in session. And I'll give you some examples in a little while of some of the bills we've done in the recent past. But it's the presiding officer, so it's either the Senate president or whomever the Senate president asks to preside. It is myself as the Democratic leader, the majority party leader, and chair of the Ways and Means Committee. It is the minority leader, Senator Bruce Tarr from Gloucester, who is the minority leader. There might be a couple members of staff, a couple of our counsel, our attorneys, of course, the clerk's office, and a couple court offices, and that's it. It's really a ghost town. Everything we do requires unanimous consent because we are in informal session, which means the session component is really just a formality of a lot of work that we've done getting to that point on reaching consensus, of reaching compromise, of working out all of the issues with our colleagues. So there's lots and lots of telephone calls, Zoom meetings, team meetings, negotiations that's happening all the time. But business still goes on.
You know, I know and we've talked about this, and you've talked about it on the Voices from the Hill show, that, you know, it makes it a lot easier during this time and during informal sessions to get a lot of work done because of the collegiality of the members there. Even though there's Democrats and Republicans, you've mentioned this before, you all work together. You all are able to compromise on many of the bills, and you're still getting your work done, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Since March, we have met twice a week in informal sessions. We've done dozens of bills. Most of the bills revolve around ensuring that our municipalities and local governments can continue to operate, given this pandemic situation that we're in. It's all done with unanimous consent. I literally spend as much time on the phone and in meetings, virtual meetings with the minority leader, Senator Bruce Tarr, and the governor, and his Secretary of A&F, Mike Heffernan, than I do with my colleagues from the local delegation, because there's so much going on right now, and there's such a need for collaboration. And collaboration starts with good, open communication. So as long as you have good, open communication and you express yourself clearly and concisely on what your interest is, what your objections might be to some of the proposals, there's always a way to work it out.
Yeah. I know that, in terms of number of bills being passed, you've talked about how a lot is getting done, but there's still a lot to be done. With the legislative session, it is an election year for the legislature. Things, at this time are toward wrapping up, getting a lot of bills to the floor that, need to get passed before the end of the session. Is there still a fear that a lot of bills that may be, really important to some constituencies, even in Fall River and Westport and the South Coast, may not get heard because of the pandemic and things that have been happening?
There is that fear, absolutely. My general counsel and I were just having that conversation literally before I came onto this meeting, that July is going to be crazy. We are in session until July 31st. We are in formal session until July 31st. We will continue to meet every Monday and Thursday throughout the remainder of the year. But once again, it will require unanimous consent. So in order for us to do any larger, more controversial bills where there will not be unanimous consent, we have to return to formal session. We will do that this coming Thursday. For the first time in over 400 years, the state Senate will vote via roll call vote in this new virtual world. We are voting on a bill that requires a roll call vote. It requires a supermajority or 2/3 of the members voting in favor of it, because it's a borrowing bill. We are going to pass a bill. We call it the RANS, R-A-N-S, RANS bill, which is the Revenue Anticipation Notes. As you know, you're probably aware that Massachusetts followed the lead of the federal government and deferred individual income tax payments from April 15th to July 15th. Now, while for the federal government, it really doesn't make a big deal, because April 15th and July 15th still are in the same fiscal year. Federal government fiscal year begins October 1. It's a real big deal for Massachusetts because our fiscal year ends June 30th. New fiscal year begins July 1. And so we were expecting lots and lots of money. We budgeted to receive lots and lots of cash on or before April 15th. That's now being deferred to July 15th. So we have all agreed, it'll be unanimous, everyone agrees that we need to authorize the governor as our chief executive officer to borrow short-term money in fiscal year 20, the current fiscal year, with anticipated revenue from fiscal year 21, the next fiscal year. So it's a short-term borrowing bill. It requires a recorded roll call vote per our Constitution. So this is constitutionally mandated, which is a good rule, a good constitutional amendment, by the way, because we're borrowing money, we're entering into debt. And it's also going to be a good opportunity for us to practice this new system of voting, because this bill will be passed unanimously. This bill will not have any amendments filed to it. It's a very strictly worded piece of legislation that cannot be deviated upon. It's drafted by bond counsel, so it's very prescriptive. So it's a good practice run for us to figure out how we can begin to once again engage in real debate, engage in real voting.
Yeah. Now, with the practices of social distancing and the limitations on the number of people in a group, you had mentioned that during the informal sessions there are only a handful of people in the Senate chamber. How is this going to work in terms of a formal vote on Thursday?
Members are going to have three options on how to vote. They can vote a traditional way, where you stand at your desk, and when the clerk reads your name, you shout out yes or no. There will be a limited number of people allowed in the chamber at one time. You're going to walk in one door, walk to your seat. The clerk will call your name. You will vote yes or no, and then you will leave via the back door, and then a new member will come in. A limited number of members in order to comply with our social distancing rule. That's one way to vote. That'll be the way I vote, because I'll be in the chamber anyway, because I have to carry the bill, describe the bill, and be ready to answer any questions should any member have a question. The second way that a member could vote is from their office. We currently have a rule in the Senate, it's actually rule number 57, that allows a member for prescribed reasons to vote from their office within the Statehouse. Some of the prescribed reasons include being ill, being injured. If you're a female member and you are nursing, you can allow the court officer to vote for you by asking for unanimous consent. So what would happen is I would file a motion with the clerk. The clerk will read the motion that Senator Rodrigues asked unanimous consent under Rule 57 to vote from his office because he is ill, because one of the reasons we're going to allow is because of the COVID-19 pandemic. That's the second way you can vote. The third way you can vote is by sending an email to the clerk, registering how you want to vote. So you can actually vote from home via a secured email string to the Senate clerk. So those are the three methods to vote. Like I said, this will be a good practice run. There's going to be no amendments filed. I'm sure the minority leader, Senator Tarr, will ask me to explain the bill, as he always does. That's his job. I will explain it. He might have a few questions. I will answer those questions, and then we will proceed with the vote.
Are there any expectations in some members will choose to either vote from their office or vote remotely from home? Do you have an idea?
No, I don't have an idea. I would anticipate most members will vote from their office or from home. That would be my guess. It's a total guess. We do have members with some underlying health conditions that, are quarantining themselves in their homes. So we don't want to risk anyone's health, whether it's our colleagues or our constituents. We don't want anyone to risk their health. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you about another bill. You talked about that there have been a number of bills passed to help our cities and towns.
Yeah.
I know in speaking with Mayor Paul Coogan over the last few weeks, he is mandated by the city charter to provide details of his next fiscal year budget by May 15th, which is actually this Friday. He mentioned that there was a bill in the legislature that may allow communities to delay that type of announcement of a budget, or at least starting the fiscal year on maybe a 1/12 or a 1/6 budget. What's the status of that type of bill, and has it moved forward?
Yes, the bill has passed the Senate. We in the Senate passed last Thursday what we call Muni Relief 4. It's the fourth version of a municipal relief bill. And included in that bill, there are a lot of provisions, but included in that bill was a provision that cities who are mandated via their charter, i.e. Fall River or in other cities, are allowed until the end of the fiscal year, up until June 30th, in order to file their budget. Municipalities have already, during a prior version of muni bills, have already been given the ability to file a 1/12 budget, which is basically just a short-term spending bill to get you through another month or so while you put together a major bill. It's a practice routinely used in the legislature, not very often by municipalities, but we're allowing them to do it. Yeah. It's not going to be easy passing this budget. I mean,
no.
We are expecting about a $5 billion revenue hit, meaning that the budget that we in the legislature, both the House and Senate, pass this year that we vote on will contain about $5 billion less in money than what the governor filed his proposed budget in January. So already he filed his bill in January. People were advocating for line item increases. I can tell you that's not going to happen because we just don't have the money. It's going to be a very, very difficult budget. I've prepared a presentation that I have presented to my Senate colleagues. I shared it with my local municipal officials, and I will be presenting to my local municipal officials a week from Friday, Friday, May 22nd. I'm going to be doing a Zoom virtual presentation that just lays out the facts and lays out what all the so-called experts, and we do have some really good experts on fiscal forecasting, what they're forecasting for next fiscal year.
Yeah. And right now I know it does not look good. And it's interesting how in a short period of time, things can just change. And with so many unknowns out there, that must probably be the most frustrating part, right? You just don't know when business will be normal. And we know it probably won't be normal for a while. But that's going to be the most frustrating part, where in years past, if you had a recession, you can sort of gauge in terms of historical references, a recession, the ebbs and flows of a recession. This is totally different.
We've had fiscal recessions before. I've served in the legislature and in local government during fiscal recessions. Every prior fiscal recession has had as the root cause of the recession a financial reason, i.e., the Great Recession of 2009 and 2010. It was the collapse of the financial service industry. In 2001 and 2, it was post 9/11, the bursting of the so-called tech bubble. And we know how to soften the blow, to soften the harm caused by fiscal financial recessions using fiscal financial tools, such as injecting more capital into the economy, of supporting our small businesses through loans, through grants, by adding more infrastructure dollars to spur the economy. I think of the off-ramp off Route 24, exit 8A, to where Amazon is. That was built using the Great Recession era dollars. However, this recession is completely different, because even though we are in a financial recession, no doubt about it, it is not caused by financial reasons. It's caused by a public health crisis. We are first and foremost in a public health emergency that has caused a fiscal recession. And only until a vaccine is created and there's some control over this virus, will we ever dig ourselves out of this?
Yeah.
Keep in mind, just 3 months ago, in February, the economy was pretty damn good. That every employer I spoke to, regardless of the industry, could be a plumber, electrician, in the building trades, it could be high tech, could be life sciences. Everyone was complaining about one thing. They couldn't hire anybody. There was nobody. We were at full employment. Then all of a sudden, boom, this virus struck. I always present an example. In one day, through one executive order by Mayor Marty Walsh of Boston, he shut down all the construction sites in Boston. In one day, he put 12,000 union, blue-collar, building trades, men and women out of work. Men and women who make a lot of money, men and women who spend a lot of money, men and women who pay a lot of taxes because their payroll is taxes, payroll. One day, gone, zoom.
Yeah, it is definitely a new world and a different world that we're all going to have to continue to deal with. And Senator Rodrigues, I want to thank you for your time. I know you've been extremely busy. I've been trying to set this up, and I'm glad we're able to connect, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Much, absolutely, anytime. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. Thank you, Keith.
All right, Senator, we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Senator Michael Rodrigues, we want to thank him for joining us today. I want to thank you for watching. Again, we ask you to visit our website, frmedia.org, for the latest information on COVID-19 and other matters facing Fall River. I'm Keith Tebow. Thanks for watching. We'll talk again soon.